Good morning. This is Senate Agriculture Committee. It is April 1st, 2025. Why am I looking at April 1st there?
You want this one?
No, I got it. Well, thank you. You know what? It's funny. The last time that I did this, I said the wrong date on that date as well. Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. Thank you for correcting me, Senator Heffernan. We will be going over H 484, an act relating to miscellaneous agriculture subjects, and we have from the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, Steve Dwindle. Steve, I'm sorry.
Dwight Allen, sorry.
Do I now?
Yeah.
I'm just being all over the place.
Doing great. Stephanie's last name is a little easier.
Yeah, if I met that, and Stephanie Smith as well, the Deputy of Director in the Division of Public Health, Agricultural Resources and Management. Who wants to go first?
Well, we both will be
Okay.
That's okay.
That's absolutely okay.
We'll double team it here. So, thank you very much, Senators, for the opportunity to testify. For the record, Steve Dwindle, Director of the Public Health and Agricultural Resource Management Division for the Agency of Agriculture and Food Markets.
And Stephanie Smith, the Deputy Director, of the same division. Nice to be here.
So, Stephanie, you want to give an overview real quick of
Yeah.
why this was proposed?
Yes. So first, the Division of Public Health and Ag Resource Management is responsible for agricultural input, pre-registered seed, fertilizer, and beneficial substance products within our division. And these programs are consumer protection programs. We review labels, we review guaranteed analysis. The agency has inspectors that go out into the field and test and will sample and test the products to ensure that they meet their guaranteed analysis. Specifically associated with fertilizer, the agency is a member of the it's APCO, but the Association of American Plant Food Control Officials. And it's a national organization that seeks consistency for all fertilizer types of products, fertilizer prime, and beneficial substances across all states in terms of the registration process and labeling. And so this bill makes changes to Chapter 28 to be consistent with a uniform beneficial substances bill that has been presented by.
Gentlemen, I've come to pay penance. I'm sorry. Bringing
Thank you, you're forgiven, and we will remove the tariff from you.
And just as promised yesterday, Representative Nelson.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're both hanging around blueberry cake and double chocolate.
We apologize for the disruption, but it was for good cause.
To keep it going. So this is generally a change in Chapter 28 for our law to be in conformance in terms of definitions and labeling requirements for beneficial substances. States that have already adopted this or are looking to do it include, well, California's already done it. But there's Minnesota, and then others considering action are Utah, Oregon, Oklahoma, North Dakota, Mexico, Mississippi, and Iowa. So again, these companies, national companies, submit labels to states. States review those labels in accordance with their laws. And if their laws are all consistent, then they only have to all states. And so it's kind of an efficiency piece, as well as there's an organization called the Fertilizer Institute that's developing and APCO are developing methods to ensure that the substances that are included in these beneficial substances, so microorganisms or other kinds of claims, are actually substantiated, and providing that lab information to state labs. So that's in process. That doesn't quite exist yet. So yeah, that's the bill changes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Stephanie, I'm just, in case the question ever came up on the floor, current law
lists fertilizer, lime, plant amendments, soil amendments, et cetera, et cetera. Is there a particular reason why what we will refer to now as beneficial substances don't include fertilizer and lime? In other words, why didn't they all sort of go in that category? Because they're still listed separately.
Separately, yes. Because fertilizers generally are, I think that was the first product, you know, back in the day.
Yeah, okay.
That states would register, and it includes primary nutrients and also secondary nutrients. So you got your nitrogen, your phosphorus, and your potassium. I don't know why I forget that one. So your NPK, and then micronutrients like calcium, and other things that can be listed. And there are very specific requirements for fertilizer that are different. Those are, because what we're talking about with beneficial substances is non-plant food that benefit that are added to soil that can have an effect of improving growth, but it's really acting on the soil in terms of the soil amendment or compost, which is a soil amendment.
And a soil board product like Halich that they could, because that covers that as well, right? When they sprayed that, what did Richard call it yesterday?
Like an inoculant?
Yeah. Does that cover under the?
No, because that, I think you're talking about a feed product. So that would be.
He thought yesterday, I'm pretty sure he mentioned that the beneficial substance would be covered in it, because as they're bringing it in.
There are inoculants that can be listed as a beneficial substance, but depending on where it's acting, if it's going to act on a feed, then that's under feed. If it's going to, or a feed supplement maybe. But if it's acting on the soil or the plants.
So this is just for application to the soil or the plant.
Right.
Yes.
Not to the, after they've cut the plant and processing in the chopper as it's coming.
Right, exactly. And if you look at the definition of beneficial substances, it's pretty clear. There are beneficial substances include plant amendments, plant biostimulants, plant inoculants, soil amendments, soil inoculants, or other chemical or biological substances beneficial to plants or the growing environment.
Yeah.
And the sort of the classic example are inoculants for like, you know, that get added to the planting process to, you know, stimulate the microorganisms that they need.
So is there one, a bill like this that also is?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
No. But I think we might, and I actually don't have the answer to that. There may be I think if it's a feed supplement, we might register it already. But we're not, you know, we don't define what a feed inoculant is in our feed law, but we might capture it as a feed supplement potentially.
Right, thanks.
But yeah, but that's not, I could come back and provide more information.
Yeah.
Or send an email.
That's a concern. We can certainly look into it.
We can look into it, yeah.
If that's a concern.
Well, just yesterday, Representative Nelson, I thought that it covered that.
Yeah.
That's why I just asked that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, this is for the growth of the plant.
All right.
It wouldn't be like post harvest.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, and maybe I missed it on the few minutes I was late. I apologize and thank the vice chair for starting on time. And maybe you said it when I first got in here, because I heard about labeling, and maybe it's been said already, but it's something that I'm missing. These products, these beneficial substances have to, if they say something, they have to do that. It has to be, if they make a claim, it has to be able to do that. Is that correct? That's the goal. Yes, it has to be efficacious based on the claim. And we register it per the claim. And where does that claim get verified? Or does it at all until somebody says something and said, hey, it's not doing that? So in Vermont, we sometimes rely on other states. We can review California's listing of registrations. They have a tremendous more resources than the state of Vermont in terms of. Because we've asked the lab yesterday to whether they had done much with a beneficial substance, and their answer was no.
Yeah, so if I could, you know, comment on that. So the lab is set up to do the nutrient analysis for fertilizers, and that's a routine process. We collect samples and make sure they're meeting the guaranteed standard. The universe of beneficial substances is pretty broad. And so, it'd be a pretty sizable investment to develop the capability to test all those different materials. So we have to rely on other states that are doing it already, and the organizations that Stephanie mentioned, the Fertilizer Institute and the Association of American Plant and Food Control Officials are developing, and to some extent have already developed, standards that have to be met. The law that we have in place provides protection in that those materials have to be registered, and we review the labels. So they have to have a label that meets the requirements of the law, which, is intended to provide information to the consumer of the product, or the buyer of the product, that this is what they do. If we ever find through one of those associations or another state that it's not efficacious, we can always withdraw the registration. Or if we find it's adulterated, we can withdraw the registration and prevent it from being sold.
To flesh that out a little bit more, is there anybody, I imagine it's the other states as well, has anybody looking at to make sure it's not causing harm?
That's part of it. That's part of the evaluation, is to make sure it's not contaminant or adulterated.
It's
Yeah.
it's adulterated.
Yeah. So, I mean, if the ability we have is to stop the sale of it if we ever become aware of it. We just don't have the resources to evaluate all these things up front before they get registered.
I mean, the reason why we talk about this is because there's a lot of states that ban certain substances and chemicals and this and that. Other states next door being allowed to use all of that stuff. And this doesn't seem like it's really got that type of look at as far as what other products are. And I'm not at all saying that we're lacking as far as what we're supposed to be doing. It just seems like some of these products might be, because they're not cheap, for most of them. And some of these products seem to be maybe getting a little bit of a free pass as far as some scrutiny. And maybe not, but we just want to make sure that everybody's on the same playing field, right? I mean, if you're selling something over here that claims to do it, but they're under the list that's getting scrutinized, and then you have the beneficial substance that come in making the same claim, but they're not getting scrutinized, where's the fairness in that?
Well, I think, if I may, I think having the ability to register products that make a claim as beneficial substance gives us the authority to then stop it if we ever become aware or get knowledge. And we have those organizations to provide that information.
Yes, so both TFI has created a program. I would call it a marketing program where they certify some of these products. And then as well, the Association of American Plant Food Control Officials is also exploring potential test methods for efficacy for these products. So we're moving in that direction. Also, I want to, just broadly say that APCO has a official publication that's fairly large that lists potential ingredients that can be added to a fertilizer or a beneficial substance and so on and so forth. And we review that for specific ingredients to ensure that it's at least listed within that book. It does not list all microorganisms, but it does include microorganisms and protection.
Yeah, so an analogy with the way fertilizer is regulated is with the building code. So the building code is established by a independent body, basically, that all the building officials agree to, that this is what's allowed under the building code and the state's adopted. That's pretty similar to what we're doing. There's no federal regulation on fertilizer. There's no standard. And so we rely on the association working together to publish a standard, and then we refer back to that standard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess you kind of went down the direction that I was going. It would seem that we want to standardize this across the country, but we're piecemealing it state by state. And why?
Because there's no federal standard.
Standard.
This organization tries to fill that gap, but states still need to take action, which is why we're before you today, is to take action to standardize.
Is there a reason that that you know of why there's no federal standard?
There's just more organization that does it. I mean, you know, it's probably historical.
I know that's a very difficult thing.
Yeah, I mean, fertilizer, it's interesting, fertilizer, if you go back and look at, you know, the history of it, was the first agricultural regulation was on fertilizer. Back when people started realizing, you know, what fertilizer could do, people started marketing it, then states started regulating it. If you go back, a lot of states, the very first agricultural organization was to test fertilizer. You know, that's the oldest thing there is within regulations. So, yeah, so this is the way it's evolved, and this is what we're working with, and it is workable. I believe the other thing I should mention too is that UVM played a role in this too, can play a role. So traditionally, the land grant colleges were the ones that tested fertilizer to see if it actually did what it was supposed to do, and then make recommendations to growers. So they have a role in this too. If a product comes along that claims to be a miracle product, they can always test it and make recommendations to growers about whether to use it.
And on top of that, I would suspect that the states are trying to do it very similarly. Because you had almost a cookie cutter type of.
That's the advantage of the association.
Yeah.
And we were active in the association, same thing, you know.
Use the resources offered. And I also wanted to, just one more thing, we're currently registering these products as a soil amendment, a plant biostimulant,
Right.
and a plant amendment. So we're already we're registering these things already. So there's not going to be a change necessarily with
Right.
respect to that piece. It's just,
I think a lot of it is,
Thank
I'm sorry, no, sorry, I think a lot of it is a new committee. And then a lot of it is just understanding about because there seems to be, there's 4,000 of these products and you've got one farmer said, oh, I couldn't live without it. And one of them said, oh, that's just boo-boo dust. And I mean, there just seems to be a whole range of opinions about some of these products on here. And so we're curious. So that's what, let's see.
Thank you, Chair. So I believe this bill will help us in the chair's concern that if you did have somebody selling the product, even though you're not testing it yet, that another state or some other outfit says, hey, this product is doing this, then the state can come in and say, we're going to pull you.
Yeah,
because
it cancel registration.
At least gives us the ability to do that. Without this bill, we wouldn't have the ability to do that. So
It makes
dumb it down to my standards.
And mine do lower.
Well, it's a good thing for the state is what I'm saying. It gives it
yeah.
and make the company be accountable for what they're selling.
We had a good day yesterday.
Oh, good. Good. Sorry I couldn't be there.
It was really nice and nice to see a lot of Vermont-based people working there, and Grace in the lab. We're from Benson, and she went to I think it was Midwest, Iowa, I think, and then come back and was able to do the practice of what she studied for right there. And then we go down and see her brother in the basement, weights and measures, and then to find out the dad was there at one time, and then to see Emily from Irishburg from the Doncaster family, and on it went. So it was like a little home week for Vermont, and which was very nice to see. I can imagine that UVM probably has a lab something similar to this. I mean, not similar, but that they do testing.
They do testing. And I don't know what they specifically test. I think they might have the ability to test mycotoxins in feed. I think they do, but they do have a lab. I could look it up. I don't have all the details with respect.
And we also will send it out to other states too. So we have we have a feed sample. So the feed program's a little different, but if we have a feed sample that we have a question about and our lab can't do it, we will send it to another lab.
Yeah.
We tend to prefer state labs as opposed to university labs. I mean, university labs are great, but they're primarily research institutions, and they're, they have turnover, grad students. I mean, I used to work at lab as a grad student, but the state labs are more stable and they adhere to very specific standards. They have to be ISO certified, all that kind of thing. So they're constantly getting audited
Yes,
by third parties to come in to make sure they're doing everything right. And so, as a regulator, I always tend to side with what the state likes us as opposed to something like that. Just because of the way they're operating.
Well, good committee.
No, it's good.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Appreciate it.
Any further questions will be available to answer.
Okay. Well, very helpful. I think we just stay on for a little bit, Linda. So first of all, let's see what these gifts are.
So I did, Senator Heffernan had, toyed with the idea of, the fee, being changed for registration. And Michael O'Grady did send us some info. It looks like there's 3 states that are below where we are and 3 states that are a little bit higher. So just one man's opinion, I would let things go. I don't mind being viewed by the manufacturers as a business friendly state and not, because these just went up a couple of years ago, to $85. So for what it's worth. You could make a case.
As a business owner, it's like, yeah, I appreciate that, but as a state government,
Big pass it over, bro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Sitting over my lower lip is starting to quiver.
that these are multi-billion-dollar companies. I don't think $100. Most of them are, I should say.
Yeah.
But I'm happy either way.
Traditionally, our party kind of shies away from further taxes. We think.
It's a fee, traditional.
Just a point.
So just a strategy. I'm hearing 124 will probably, I was told yesterday by the chair of natural resources that 124, our miscellaneous bill, with the water quality stuff, probably gonna come out of there intact. I think they're voting on today, so that would be very, very good. We're going to probably pull off, well, I think, talk about, we've got 484 right now. And then we'll get to 118 and 167. And I think that we ought to be, and then we were talking about, depending on what goes on with the 3-acre rule, we might have some, interest in, talking about a amendment for the Rutland State Fair. So my point being is that we may need a bill to attach stuff to. And, because I don't know that we're gonna just take 118. I haven't seen it. I haven't even read it. I just know the gist of it, and we'll, maybe we can get into that, but we, will probably end up taking some bits and pieces out of that and attaching it. Maybe, that's helpful for agriculture, to a miscellaneous bill. And we're gonna need something to attach it to, or we're gonna attach it to that or whatever. So if we just don't pass out 484, just like right now, just be good with it for just a second, because we might need an avenue. So make sense to everyone?
Yeah, we, some of the other committee members were kind of tossed around the idea of whether it would be more beneficial to try to put a last through around all the fairs or just specifically the Vermont State Fair at Rutland. Each of them, at least on the western side of the state, there's 4 that are impacted with the 3-acre rule. The other 3 seem to be able to.
I think they're solved. They're solved,
Yeah.
basically.
So I don't know where that leaves the other. I think there's 13 or 12 fairs. So I don't know where the other ones fall. They're not in the Lake Champlain watershed. So in terms of the 3-acre thing, they're not affected yet.
I'm wondering if you do them all, that it looks like there's no bias or anything. You just do them all and you're done.
Yeah.
You would know better than I would as far as if it would get some resistance. I mean, it's gotta get resistance.
I think, and I normally would be all over that, Senator Major, except that we've secured the dollars for those fairs, and most of them are good. Most of them have a de minimis amount of monies that they have to come up with to make it right. It's just
But if we were starting fresh and they didn't have that path and we didn't have I would be all over that all day long. There's another thing that's growing a little bit as well, and I don't know quite how it's out of our jurisdiction a little bit, but really not out of our jurisdiction because we are talking about fairs a little bit and it's agriculture. But you guys are going to see as we open up the capital bill, and you've already have been because we got the syrup and they've been in here as well about the $30,000 grants that are giving every year to these fairs to help them with capital improvement projects. We're getting an ask from Essex County, who doesn't have their own fair, but they partner with Lancaster.
Yeah.
So it's basically that they're fair, and they'd like to get in on this $30,000. Jackie Folsom's aware, Lieutenant Governor's aware. I'm aware because it's my district. We're going to be aware some more because we're going to probably have some. I don't know all the legalities of monies flowing outside of the state to, even though I don't know all the legalities of that. So we'll probably maybe have a few conversations about that, but it's certainly a discussion that's gonna hit one committee somewhere. And so we'll talk about that. So if all of a sudden that pops up and you hear me go off on something, that's just a heads up of where that's coming from.
And then the other issue with respect to that accessory on-farm business situation with the pole barn, we need to be able to find a vehicle for amending that, I think, too. To me, it's just common sense that if you're only using that barn as a stage for 6 or 7 events a year, then it should not.
I mean, at the most, it is 2 months.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
even more of a reason to exempt it, or however we're gonna attack that problem. It's
And
just,
I'm not even talking about if it rains that day.
yeah, yes.
So,
So just to keep it on the radar,
yeah,
those are the 2 things that are Vermont State Fair, and then the amendment to help that guy out that has the barn.
They're pretty good advocates.
Yeah, we got a lot of email on that. Which is good.
I am.
No, I like that.
I assume they weren't able to figure it out with the, forget who the regulator was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
decent.
they weren't able to just.
No, apparently they're not even willing to talk to them about it.
Well, I was happy that I was hoping the town would take a little bit of different direction as far as, and maybe they will. They've done everything that I suggested that they would do, and maybe we can get the town to jump in with some power too. Towns have great powers.
So that's Senator Parsons.
Well, it's Barnard.
No, it's Barn. Okay, it's right over the.
It's in yours or his?
What's in their senatorial district?
Senatorial district.
She's in Woodstock.
She's in Woodstock, so which is next town over. So we're meeting today.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
Because the town considers it ag.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Good. And we're gonna wait to hear from you.
Yeah.
And then we'll.
Then I'll give an update either tomorrow or Tuesday.
I will not be here.
Okay.
We better cancel the whole thing.
Yeah.
Send all 180 members on.
Yeah. I'm sure they would appreciate that.
179.
179.
Sure they would appreciate that.
Okay, so I think that's where we're at with all that. Everybody good? Everybody got any questions and all that? We probably have 3 more weeks left. Which is hard to believe. Not total as far as in this building, but 3 more weeks left as far as morning committee times, because they will end them. And so. Yeah.
But this is more because how did that work? I mean, obviously, I know education will probably go a little bit longer. Are we just here waiting?
Yeah, hurry up and wait. There'll be times where you'll have, okay, the floor is gonna be this and this at time, and so if you have something to do and you don't want to show up here, you can just show up and when you need to be here, but it's a lot of it's hurry up and wait, and
And you can zoom in on that now if you have a good reason to, correct?
you have to really have a reason. It has to be a sickness or something, so you're expected to be here physically. but you can if, and you do have so many days, you have hardship days or whatever, so you can do that. But if you don't have that, you're expected to be here. So, I think out of all respect, for, certainly everybody who's got a bill up on the wall, you know, a Senate bill, and a Senate committee, you know, deserves a look at it if we can make that happen. So, you know, I want to make sure that we give 118 a fair shot. But, after today, that's all going to be made easier, I think. So, hopefully. Good.
So you guys are, well, we're all here, so I'm trying to think. So judiciary would be affected, economic development would be affected, natural resources would be affected, the morning committees. And it's just traditional that the floor has a tendency to get longer for the last 3 weeks because there'll be bills that just all of a sudden get taken up and there'll be 4 or 5 hour floor sessions. So that's, and then so Phil Baruch will probably move the floor session back to like 10:30 or 11, which would interfere with the morning committee. So, but even with that in place, there are ways for Senator Sears used to be able to do it judiciary. They would meet for half an hour and they'd be able to get a bill through. So there's ways around no more morning committees meeting, basically. But
Right. Yeah. And as far as to prepare you, there'll be times in the Senate where you'll meet, you'll adjourn, you'll come back later in the day. That's what you'll do. And then the big holdup will be everybody's waiting. Everybody's basically waiting for appropriations, and appropriations can't get anything done until they have everything. But they don't need to wait neither. They can do whatever they want to do. So if you're in there and you think you're going to hold them up on some dollars amounts of where you're at, oh, and here's the other thing. Other than the asks that are here in front of us, which are, you know, the NOFAs and the food banks and, you know, and all of that stuff. I mean, they come in, they advocate for them, but they also go into appropriations and they advocate for themselves. They were in the other day in your committee advocating. I'm surprised they haven't been into institutions and advocating. About the only committee that I wouldn't expect them to be in would be education. But so they advocate for themselves. But there are a couple bills that we need to make sure that we get our say into appropriations. And I'm thinking, that the ones that they're all important. I'm not trying to say that they're not all important, but all monies are important, especially when people come in and ask for them. But the 7.5 million that is in the security, and I need to get the figure, and I'll get together with Anson. And there are some twisting around politics stuff that I'm not going to play that game with. Meaning, you know, whether it comes from Washington or whatever about the 1.2 or up to 1.7 million dollars, about why they pulled them dollars. At the end of the day, that's not important to me. Why and who and why they want to do that. What's important to me is that we have people in our state that have planned on using that money. And I think I have a path forward as far as with appropriations to get those, to refund those dollars. So those are the two asks that I believe, unless the committee thinks that there's something else that they, you know, that's really, really important. The other ones are going to advocate for themselves, and they're going to do fine, I believe. But those are the ones that really don't have it. Ours, they don't really have an advocacy. We're the advocacy for this, for the security fund, for the farmers, and for nobody's going to step up and ask for the 1.2 or 1.7 to be found someplace within the budget to take care of these ag programs that are getting affected. So if there's anything else, speak up, because I'm going to get that appropriation. They've asked for that. They've asked for those dollar figures, which I've already had those conversations with the chair of appropriations. And, but if there's something else that there is, speak up. And doesn't have to be now, but within, by maybe Tuesday of next week.